Hello, hello. I'm Benjamin Minku, and I'm here with Lucian Minku and two very special guests, Adrian Dobrice and Robert Sasu. We're building the most advanced technology that scales trust, truth, and human collaboration. And this is a front seat into our journey that shares a bit about the challenges, the experiences, the setbacks, and maybe even, hopefully, some good laughs along the way with the lessons that we discover. Welcome to the Full Shot podcast. Um, it's really great to have you guys here. Lucian, Adi, Robert, how are you guys?
Going well, going well. Producing blogs, man. How about you?
Really great, really great, and it's cool to have special guests, Adi and Robert, for this really interesting conversation. Namely, we're at 5 years from starting Elrond and now Multiverse X, and this has been one hell of a journey. So I'm just curious, who would have thought if you were to just remember the first days, the first conversations, would you have thought that this is the outcome that we're starting from? Just curious on some initial impressions, maybe that give you a reminder of the early Elrond days. Maybe Lucian and then Adi and Robert. What do you remember as the kind of first experiences a bit?
Sure. So first thing first, happy anniversary for the entire Multiverse X ecosystem. I think today is a great day for the ecosystem. It's a special day where we certainly see the progress of where we started from. And I'll go a step back maybe and just go and say initially when the initial like when we started the discussion with Benjamin, if I look back and you ask me, would I ever be able to picture the how far we're gonna go, how crazy the path would be, and where we stand today? Definitely, I would say unbelievable. And it sounds from a different life. It sounds from a book. It sounds from almost science fiction in all the ways possible through what we experience, people that we have met, and actually experienced that we shared along the way with especially building a community around and an ecosystem, not only tech wise, people wise, and contributors everywhere around where I look, even though today might be one of the toughest periods, not compared to when we started, I would say. Nothing compares to that, just for a second. But at least for the new ones or the newer ones, it feels tough, and I can relate to that. But now maybe pausing and again going back to your question, if there is something that I think again have shaped entirely almost every single step of what the protocol, especially the technical side of what Elrond was designed and also executed up until today, is the team. And I think with every single one that have initially came to the initial discussions after a very, very, very intense period of trying to onboard them, convince them to answer me and answer to the messages and read the papers and allocate a bit of time to what we were aimed or set to do. Every single one literally have shaped in such a way that it's almost unbelievable. So I think this is the very early prior to anything that we have done. Pausing here and giving the mic.
Look, I will just double down and restate this. Definitely happy birthday to the entire ecosystem, to the team,
Happy birthday.
to everyone that has been with us and is still alive, to have this happy conversation and interesting conversation. And it's extraordinary to jump back at those moments of how we started, and just hear this initial emotions from you, Lucian. Curious, Adi, what comes to mind if you think about those early days and the maybe expectations or the way you look at things right now? Would you have expected that? How did you look at the things at that point, and then how do they look right now, just as initial impression?
Wow, so 5 years is a long time, but also short from some point of view. Um, yeah, happy anniversary to everyone in the community. I think for when we started, it was everything. It was not something very specific for me. It was just, okay, let's meet up. Lucian was bugging me about reading some papers and coming to some discussions. Finally did that, and that's when I got hooked with the idea. And yeah, it's I think from back then the things or the view has changed a lot, also technical, or like in what it could become as well, because originally I don't think any of us have realized how big it could become. Yeah, it's both impressive that we are here, and so many things have happened. The ecosystem grew a lot in the meantime. Our product that we worked for so long has improved so much. It was also hard, but it's also rewarding to see it happening. Also, not only the end result that we can look at right now, and this is not even the end result, like it's a lot more coming up, but also seeing the journey, the entire journey with the people, like Lucian mentioned, all the team members. And I think it would have been really, really hard if it didn't happen in that setting, like everyone coming up and contributing with the ideas and all the memories that we had and all the things that happened. I think they all contributed to build not only the product or the project, but also us as a team. So I think, yeah, I wasn't expecting it, but it was like we were somehow envisioning it, and we were like fighting to get to some point that's maybe similar to where we are or what we still target to achieve. But yeah, it was really interesting, and it's still being interesting. The same, like we see the technology, how it's evolving, how we can interconnect all the things, all the new technologies that come and have an effect on what we are doing as well. So it keeps being interesting, and maybe even more than when we started.
100%. Maybe one point, actually, just listening, I'm getting waves of goosebumps, actually, just listening, through what Adi was mentioning. And then one thought came to my mind, actually, listening again. On the one hand, I reflecting a bit on on the capacity or design of what we were set to build, and actually that it was set to be actually and its main goal was only to actually achieve so much demand, so much throughput, so much bandwidth that, on the one hand, it's crazy actually what we have, I think, designed and set from the start actually to build, but also through the process at the same time, almost leaving it open to what as a magic, almost, to what the future can bring us, and working towards that, but almost open with just full passion and I would say.
And Robert, if we go to you, and you maybe picture a bit the initial conversations, whether it's the pizza discussion where you looked at some of the conversation and so on, and came with questions and so on, or some of the other experiences. What comes to mind if you think about those early experiences and memories, and then where we are right now?
Happy anniversary, everybody. So nice to be here after 50 years. Oh, sorry, 5. Sometimes in crypto it feels like 60. Come on, it's just joking. I don't know. For me, initially it was like a leap of faith going from corporation into the startup world. Let's try something new. Let's see what is happening. And I was saying, okay, I can code. So let's try this kind of experiment. I didn't really believe initially in, let's say, how we can take over the world with the crypto and everything we try to do. But after that, it starts to, let's say, all the pieces start to shuffle and put into a good place. And it was just amazing how the team have evolved, how much everybody was and is online, even on weekends, how much we have pushed in the last weeks or months before the mainnet, where it was like the crazy things from morning up till 4 a.m. and then starting from the morning again. There are so many good memories around how the team have been working in, and you could have, I don't think that we could have ever imagined that in 5 years after the launch, where the development will lead, where our ideas will lead, and how all those things will fit together. I think one of the most important things is how you do, how you adapt to the things. That's why adaptive state sharding is so great. They adapt to the whole thing around it, and it still makes the most sense out of the crypto. So without sharding, there is nothing.
This is why we call it the Full Shard Podcast. Thank you, Robert. Look, if we zoom out a bit, I think this is an absolutely special moment because we get to step back a bit and get to look at some of these experiences and memories and maybe share them in a more novel or unfiltered way with the community. And it's rare that you get to not only remember but also celebrate something. Celebrate some very, very significant milestones that, despite storms, despite challenges, setbacks, and so on, you can look at and you definitely say, hey, this is something that every time you'd ask me, I would be extraordinarily proud of the different contributions and steps we've taken. And if I were to just look a bit back at the perhaps two moments, and then ask you about the moments that you think have defined, maybe one good moment for each that you think has defined the direction and you felt maybe was pivotal in the very, very early days. I remember two special moments. One, when much earlier, maybe 1 year before starting Elrond, I went to Germany to convince Lucian, sort of plant the seeds for the Trojan horse, that if we would achieve some modest success with what we were doing, he would have to basically quit his job in Germany, come to Romania, and then we would have to just focus on the one thing that we want to build. We were very, very far from the point of, let's say, having discussions on Elrond. But I remember it was a weekend. It was Friday evening. We were just sitting and having this conversation in his apartment. It was probably 3-4 a.m. still going on with the conversations, and just trying to do two things that has been a kind of leitmotif, if you will, in all our conversation. Start with some small step that someone can commit to, and then easily say yes to, and then let that step grow. because if I would have requested for Lucian to just jump in at that moment, he would certainly not have been, let's say, ready or comfortable. But then starting with
You would have not been ready for me.
Yes, 100%, 100%. But that moment, then just I fast forward 6-12 months, and then you arrive in Romania, and then we come to this other special moment where we gather, we think really deeply, who are the brightest people we'll know. And then with these brightest people, of course, it's hard to start a conversation. And how you start the conversation is almost crucial. These people will remember the conversation as interesting or not interesting for the rest of their time. So we thought a lot, and Lucian was bringing this very interesting people, different friends, different connections, and so on that he had. I was bringing a few people and different friends and connections. And so I thought, what would be a great way of starting the conversation? Great, that would be sufficiently challenging to wake up a bit some of the smart people, but then also a bit aligning, seeing if it fits together, if people without any like great amount of time to study stuff, like very limited time, if they could come with some at least peer review or critical thinking, and then ideally also with some contributions, some interesting contributions to the conversation. And then what I can say is, without a doubt, that was probably, if I were to point to one conversation that had more impact on everything we did, since that point, it was that initial conversation that put this great, brilliant people together, and then also frame the challenge so that we see how it fits, how the people feel about the challenge, and then started the conversation. You can almost zoom in to the points of us sitting in a room of not even sure, was it 4x4, 5x5, just drinking Coke, eating chips, and having the blackboards full of math over and over again, which I think is almost you can make a movie out of. But that's just one good memory that comes to my mind. I'm curious, Lucian, maybe one memory of yours, and then maybe Adi and Robert, one memory that you think has shaped the direction in a kind of pivotal way, if you think about the early days. Lucian?
I think I already stated, especially the team bringing, and that's the one of the weight. And then once I need to think after that. That's all, everything I had prepared for this call.
Good one. Let's maybe take Adi. Maybe he has kind of interesting thing.
I do have many that I can remember. I will choose one chronologically, maybe after what you mentioned. When we started, it was definitely interesting to figure out what we would want to do, how we should tackle the existing problems. And definitely one of the moments was when we finally found out that we have a solution for the problems. And I remember that we were in that small room, a bunch of us building the prototype of what the first version will be, but not necessarily building it as in coding, but designing the framework of the entire solution, and like all the ideas that were bouncing around, and people trying to defend their own ideas, and then others trying to demolish them and coming up with better solutions. And I think it was really interesting and intense. But I didn't want to touch on this one. I wanted to touch on the next moment, which was the moment when I'm not sure if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. When we found out that the bear market was onto us, and the funding round was not going forward, and that was, I think, a very pivotal moment, because we had some decisions to make. What are we doing when we don't know when the bear market will end? We have no funding, but we have a great idea that we want to build, and I think that was the moment when the team kind of connected on the same goal, and it was very, very interesting to see what we could do in that situation. So I think that was also something like character revealing, or showing that everyone actually is aligned on the same goal. I think that was really important, because you never want to find out this type of things in a different setting. Like, this setting was the right thing that we needed to see that we're all aligned.
100%, 100%. Robert, curious what experience comes to your mind if you think about a kind of defining direction?
I think that one of the interesting point was, let's say, when we first went, or there were a bunch of ideas, but what came to my mind right now, it was our first small team building somewhere in Sinaia. We were only under 10 people. And then we just went into a house, and you said that, okay, let's have party, let's drink something, let's eat some, or stuff like that. And everybody was on their laptops and coding like crazy, even more than in the lab, in the office. Like, we were having some kind of drinks or something like that, but resolving peer-to-peer issues, consensus, messages, processing. New ideas came up how to improve stuff. We were joking that we are not allowed to push into GitHub in that weekend, but anyway, everybody was pushing. So those were those kind of moments where it was super clear that we are among builders who dream this, who live this, who want this to be their, let's say, the identity in this sense, to solve the issues and to push at that time the Aaron code as fast as possible out. And then that there is, like, when you have a great team, there is like no problem you can't solve. You just need some time and some fresh minds here and there, and then just push it out non-stop, putting 110% in. Those were nice moments. And even I think in the next 2 or 3 like this kind of team buildings, there were a bunch of coding and a bunch of research and reviews and ideas and ideations, which just define how things are moving forward. When everybody is happy about it, or you are playing a game of chess and still discuss about ideas how to improve the consensus, it just shows that everybody is pushing the limits of what's possible.
And I would just come back to this idea that I thought at first a lot, how would I frame this in one line? Like that would become this recurring theme whenever someone talks about these great moments, productive conversations, challenges, and capacity to just solve problems. And I remember that I started repeating this idea of building a team with which we can literally build rockets. And then repeating this and repeating this and repeating this, and then actually seeing it become real in front of our eyes with what Adi was mentioning and you were mentioning and Lucian was mentioning. And I think this journey of discovery, where you do have a crazy challenge in front of you, much beyond what you think is possible at that moment, that's the kind of thing that you sort of almost need as a young person. If there's one thing that you need, is something that is a bit above what you think is possible at that point. Because if you're just taking what you think is possible, of course you'll solve that. You'll be happy with yourself, but you're not necessarily look at this historical moment and so on. So I do think that the idea of bringing a team with which we can literally build rockets together has all this absolutely interesting side effects where conversations and problems and solutions flow in a completely new way. Lucian, if I were to come back to you and then the guys as well, what would you say is one moment that you define as the biggest challenge, like the hardest moment that, from your point of view, we've faced, and then how we overcame it? What comes to mind as the single toughest moment? I love the laugh.
First, I was actually funny how my listening to all this conversation, I was preparing to say something similar, but which goes almost against the questions, quite at the opposite pole. If I would have to define every moment that brought significant progress or shaped in a decisive way in almost anything that we did, it had one property, which was the intensity. The intensity when going back to what Adi was mentioning a bit, the intensity of the discussions when you went home, barely slept, brought the idea that you finally got excited you for another day, you come in and then someone literally screws that idea and trashes. So, it gets trashed literally in no time that you almost want to go home again, leave the room and say, thank you. I'll call you again. See you next time. And that's almost from the very early days. Just putting it that way, I think was I mean, it's almost a blessing, I would say, to look that all those brilliant people had feet in that 4 square meter room. And actually, there were no punches in the face until the white paper came, just to put it that way. Now, if I look to on almost the other challenges, as Eddie mentioned again, on the financing and setting up this kind of structure, I mean, almost any step or almost every initial challenge to get things moving was an experience close to that. If it was legal, close to that. I mean, burned literally more than $500,000. And then to find out that the lawyers from Ethereum Foundation put us actually after 7 months passed, actually missed the run and says that actually we're a security. Amazing. If it was then Ethereum going from 1,400 to $80. So looking today where we are and people saying, yeah, it's bad. Yes, very bad. $4,000 for an Ethereum. Very bad. Think about $80. Think about pretty much every single experience, every single path close near to that experience seemed to be, on the one hand, what brought people even stronger, made them even stronger, bond them even stronger together, and actually forced that the path that there was almost no other way without relying 100% on each other and trusting that we will do best of our capacity or skills or whatever we are empowered to do, we will do it. And this is, I think, not the specific, because as I said, hard to say, to point only at one. And I'm also the guy that I'm looking forward actually at the challenges and try not to remember that much the previous ones. That's the only way I can wake up and still smile like that and say, fuck it, let's do it again. Yeah.
Awesome thoughts. I'm curious, Robert, if you were to point to maybe one thing that from your point of view seems like the hardest or the most difficult challenge, which would it be?
Wow. I think it was like 2 of the hacks which happened. Oh. And one was at a big, this kind of team building event.
Oh yeah.
That was and all the week after, not only about the hack or
Team
what
buildings
happened.
seem to have always been very special for us
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
some
Or
way
Very,
or
very,
Christmas
another.
very
parties,
special.
or
That
Christmas
was
parties, team
that
buildings or
was
Christmas parties, and
yeah,
near
that was a
that
Christmas
experience.
party, and it was like okay, everybody should have fun. We had a great year. It was actually EGLD was pumping over 300, and then some kind
Robert
of
remembers quite a few things, I see.
yeah, and then it was like we missed a few on the contracts, some stuff on the X exchange, and then things started to happen. And then instead of going and celebrating after a super hard year where we have pushed, let's like literally the limit, not many people know that actually that time Meyer exchange was written with everything in 3 people in 2.5 months. Like that was the team who was pushing out the things, and after that you find out a small issue, and then the next whole week to like you solve the issue maybe at the team building event and everything was okay, but after that you have to solve everything and recalculate everything around the positions on the DeFi positions and put everything in order to solve it. That was quite hard. And then the same thing happened, like I don't know, I think 1 year after, with one of the opcodes on the VMs, and again it was not only a one-nighter, it was I think a 5 nighters, like 5 full complete days of like pushing out stuff.
Definitely
And that week,
brings back the pain.
yeah, and that week it was like, come on, it was like that was not only one bug. So it was the first bug found, and after that it like as a cascading effect, not on the chain but on the development, we definitely leveled up in 1 week, like in 2 years. But we found like 10 or 5 things, and then you had to push at the most speed how to fix it, automatize testing, test it, audit it, verify everything. So it was a lot of coordination. But after that, the about all those events, the team always got out much more powerful. I think it's, if you want to create a parallel, it's like how SpaceX and with all their failed rockets, and rebuilding the rockets always and rebuilding the processes and rebuilding it at a super great speed. That what these kind of events teach us. They were painful, but in the end, when you look back, I don't know, after that, how the level up has happened, it was amazing.
I just take
thanks.
this the part with near close to death experience. As stated before, I mean, I don't know how cats have 7 lives. I think this team has exceeded many lives combined of a bunch of cats, I would say, if I look closer, and all of them brought the entire team, I think, to what it is today, to what defines us as discipline, as culture, as success. And there's a saying that without there is no progress without failure, right? Or without actually going through some of the challenges. Even sometimes they can be avoided, and sometimes they are avoided, but sometimes, I mean, there's the meme with the one that actually steps carefully, goes over all the traps, and then finally says, yes, made it. And then the last one just hits him hard in the face. I think this goes without saying almost every day.
100%. I'm curious, Adi, what comes to mind if you think about it?
Another one.
Yes, whether it's the same or you think.
No, I think I have another one. This was also a little bit funny but painful for us. Was, if you remember, the first time we got the prototype working, it was a Friday, and we had the first runs where everything was working, but of course it didn't got well tested because it was just the first version that worked. And then we were very happy, went for the weekend and came back on Monday. And in the morning you said we have a call in, I don't know, half an hour with one of the most important investors that we were having back then discussions with. And you wanted us to showcase because they were asking for it. And when we started and we wanted to do the demo, of course, like Murphy's Law, the demo doesn't work. And then, yeah, it was a bit tough. Of course, it wasn't tested. We just had, on Friday, it was the first successful run. But then, since it was not prepared, we had that, yeah, that issue. And the thing was that afterwards, somehow the news went out that okay, these guys have a product that doesn't work. So it was twice as hard to get anyone to talk. So it was really tough, but I think we tried even harder. So
Definitely a good lesson learned.
yeah.
I'll add one funny note to that hell of a prototype. How we ended up actually deciding and actually deleting that code base. I remember so there were many components. So the guys literally put the sharding together, kind of pseudo consensus in place that validated the idea, ran actually on a bunch of standalone machines or different machines inside some cloud providers and so forth. Things went very well, but only for a few minutes. Literally for a few minutes. It was like the in the book of Tesla, like you could actually showcase it validated all the hypotheses that we wanted and needed to. However, it needed proper and very thoughtful coordination to when the listening almost at the doors, when the calls were happening, and then preparing the engine to start, so to say, the blockchains or the chain to start generating in a time frame of a few minutes or a few seconds to everything to be ready, because otherwise after that it had exploded. And then so we went even further on and said, okay, maybe it was not decisive that we were going to change everything at that point of time. And I saw that there was a frustration in the team, particularly to one library, which was the peer-to-peer library. That was a piece of shit. Sorry to say like that. Literally, that almost got everybody depressed. I ended up looking at the scouting for the coder or the author of that library, called in Switzerland at the university to find that teacher to ask him to fix his bug. It was cheaper and would have saved us a month of work in the initial days if that guy would have just fixed his own code. So just very, very funny actually what you end up actually in startups to do when you think you want to build a product, and then you end up actually in most wild and uncommon stories or situation to just do everything in your power to help the team and make it work.
And what's very interesting is that people may think about this as a kind of straight line progress of, hey, you start and this is what you build and this is the process. But if we were to just define what we were doing or building or what our team looked like in different stages, it was very, very different than what people would imagine. And I think this is also why this type of projects don't happen usually, because the type of skill, for instance, required at the start to map in record time 5 or 6 fields and put them together in parallel and coordinate with the entire team to do peer reviews, like someone taking consensus, someone taking sharding, someone taking cryptography, someone taking communication, someone building the kind of network layer and so on. And always there's one thing where you do deep dive research, but then putting the pieces together, making them fit and work and so on. And as Adi was mentioning, there was this initial standpoint where we were more like a kind of crazy special forces research lab where we were tackling the state of the art in a few subjects and then putting it together in record time to come to a solution that was groundbreaking and unparalleled. And then having that paper was a breakthrough moment and validation that we were not as crazy as we seemed initially, but actually up to something that was pretty cool. And then the phase of actually building the prototype and learning some hard lessons about prototyping, but then at the same time being almost killed by the legal conversations, being almost killed by the just financial shifting sands where we were self-financing for a very, very long time. And then at some point, especially having conversations from Romania with people that never heard of this type of projects, it was a very difficult time. It was like you almost started from a discussion that where you were actually guilty of something. And then you should prove that you're innocent. It was not, hey, I'm excited about what you're building and I totally get it. And this is going to be a really great experiment. It was like, guys, what you're claiming is nearly impossible. You're also from Romania, by the way. So I'm not sure that there's something there. Can you show us something? And then the experiments with the prototypes, with changing everything, moving actually not only from lib peer-to-peer, but moving from Java into Go, in again a record time, and then building that and scaling then afterwards to maybe the conversations in preparation for the mainnet launch, because we're mentioning 5 years from mainnet actually today, but then there were sort of 2 years before the mainnet when we were preparing all of that. And then at mainnet, it was, if I'm thinking about the pain levels in my life, and I think, hey, there's moments where pain just went above 100%, above 150%. I'm not sure if I'm alive anymore. I think there was absolutely no other point, maybe other than the hacks, but even the hacks had a different type of challenge like we had on the Genesis, because the Genesis had so much complexity compressed in a few days from so many teams with so many conversations. And the fact that we also wanted to do something live, that just added a pain level that I don't even I'm not sure how we survived that, because it was
that room was cooked. Yeah, everybody was cooked, well cooked.
Yeah, but I still think so. The level of pain was extraordinary, but if I look back, it was also at that moment that people created some memories that they never had in the blockchain or crypto space. Saw that some of these things were actually not only possible, but they could go live. They could actually exist. And I feel even the moment where we did the countdown together, that was sort of almost a kind of epic climax where both internally and externally people felt like crying. Hey, this is actually happening. Can you believe it after so much time and so on? Extraordinary memories. And with the painful moments, I'm almost switching to the exact opposite for one moment. I'm curious if there was a time, a moment where you said, yes, we actually did it. We actually made it. This milestone in itself is absolutely extraordinary.
I'll make a joke. I'll jump in and do it. I think it's multiple times. It was at the beginning, multiple times a day that we were making it and then dying at the same time. Very
the same
fast.
Day,
You had
the
this,
same day.
yeah.
A breakfast and noon and then dinner. Yes. But I'm curious if there's one moment, if you have one moment and you say this again, this is so significant that it actually changes some things. If you want, we can jump to.
Yes.
Please.
No, I will restate and said that every time that it's fascinating how actually there was some articles explaining a bit that the human behavior actually, or the path to happiness, is kind of a communication between pain and relief. And then without pain, you basically cannot appreciate that much or sense the same intensity of happiness. And there are also many jokes around that. I won't go into that once, but I think just almost every time achieving and looking at this at the steps, the achievement, and also looking at the team again, what everybody was feeling and how they actually all came together, pulled this through. Then to be able to also be alive and appreciate the moment, if we're talking about Genesis, again, the intensity before and then the first second after. There were almost tears in the eyes. You could not, like, the intensity, again, looking and seeing this happening there. It was, as I said, almost after every peak of pain, then the achievement afterwards was mostly something that again shaped so dramatically the path of what we did. I'll share maybe one small point, and then related to the Genesis moment, pre-Genesis state of mind and post-Genesis. If everything in life seemed hard and seemed that it had a goal, a defined goal for what actually this kind of pain or goal or intensity would go through, was Genesis. And then focused to deliver that. And then immediately after, it hit me and said, but this is not going away ever. So starting today, this is the new default. And I'm getting actually goosebumps again explaining it, thinking that if we prepared for first blocks to make sure that, for example, everything works to 100%, for the first block, and that was not only the first block, but it was a meaningful path that since that one passes, it will continue. Then from now on, everything needs to work 100%. And this is not a test case anymore. This was just the warm up. And this is something that
you thought I made it. We said the Genesis,
yes.
Genesis is live. We made it. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Again, I think I was too young for all of this, but actually just knowing then that whenever something, it also polarized a bit the life once you figure this out, that whenever you go through something that intense, that most likely there's a very high chance that will be the new default, and the life won't go to the previous state.
Wow.
So
don't share all the deep wisdom yet.
Yes,
but yeah. No,
sir.
Very
Pausing
cool.
here, and I think I hope at least I shared something that is on the path
to making it.
Yes.
Adi, curious if there was one moment where you felt like this is a very significant level up and we made it, or at least for some momentary like time. If there was something like that, maybe there wasn't, but curious.
No, definitely there were a few moments like that, and I think the most important was to see it go live, like the mainnet launch, which Lucian also mentioned. And I would touch on a different one, like when we did the showcase. Like we were we did a showcase to see what the network could do if we stress it to the maximum and add shards and so on. So I think that was the moment when people really bought into it, because previously we were just running some machines. We had one or two shards, and it looked like, okay, it's running really well, but you are promising a lot more, like a full sharded network. And I think showcasing that it can happen at that scale, it was interesting, and it also put together all the community. And I think building the community, it was really interesting to see how they kept coming on our channels and trying to interact with us. And of course, I don't think any of us were experienced in managing communities, and but I think we learned a lot along the way. But if I were to choose one, it was definitely the Genesis, seeing it live, and then of course the default changed, and we had to look to how to maintain it and keep it being alive for a long period of time.
Robert?
I think one defining moment before the mainnet, for me, it was when Binance accepted us in their launchpad. I think that was like, okay, we actually coded something which is super interesting, and then at that time, and the biggest launchpad ever accepted us from Romania. Out of, I don't know, at that time there were like 400 applicants, and you had to go through all kinds of meetings, and they looked all over the code and all over the white paper, and it was like a super serious thing. And that was like, wow, yeah, we reached the position. And then when it launched already on Binance, and then we started to make some of the records there at that time, it was just like another wow moment that, okay, what we do really matters. And then and it also gives you a much bigger responsibility, because if you start to get more funding, then you have to do more work, and then you have constant, you have a timeline, you have to keep it up. And Binance came to us with a timeline and everything, and we had to push even harder than before to keep the timelines and make good decisions, not to develop what we want, but we develop what we want, but we had to choose our fights in this order. And then after that, it was an amazing moment to have the Genesis on. It was, I think, one of the most painful few months before, like 8 months before, no sleep, no day off. I don't know in that week how many hours did we sleep. Not much, not many. And then in the next morning, let's start with the first transactions to see how the network reacts. And then after you got back from, it's a funny story. At that time from the Genesis, we did it in Bucharest, and it were like, I don't know, 40 degrees Celsius, and all our of the core team were in a small van. It was the van of Lucian, which was like, I don't know, it had at least 10 years old or 20 maybe, without air conditioning, and going from the Genesis event next day home to Sibiu in 40 degrees in that one, and thinking about how many tasks we have for the next period, as we had to launch the PM, the legacy delegation, staking systems, and everything around. It was just kept going and going on and on. So that was funny, but those were really defining moments.
100%. I can say just that it was one thing we had a countdown where we said, okay, let's have 72 hours prior to Genesis, the config file ready. Right. I think something like that it was, because, or 24 hours, more than 24 hours. We wanted definitely I think it was definitely couple of days at best. And then if I remember correctly, we even updated again the config file once. I remember also I was posting some stuff from the office, and then one of our colleagues, Julian, was actually with no socks in the office, and then everybody was commenting, "Look at those guys!" Actually, but it was literally so intense. Like I think going home 3-4 hours, a bit, and then at the end, once we decided. Picked up all the team and took them with me, or most of the team, like to go to Bucharest for the streaming session. That was again hell of a ride, but a funny one indeed. I think the adrenaline was so high that I almost I didn't fall asleep or felt tired because I was just running on adrenaline. I think it was pure madness.
So coming to if I were to also pick one point where I thought it was an absolutely extraordinary moment beyond the Genesis, because the Genesis clearly was the most painful and maybe the most high weight moment. Binance as a kind of outside validation was absolutely next level. And I think very few people understand what Binance meant at that point. The toughness, the selection process, the calls we did at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., like we were alive, up during the day, and then had calls at 3 a.m., such that Binance and their team were asking, "Are you really in Romania?" Because we cannot keep account on when you're waking up, when you're sleeping. Like there's something fishy about these guys. They cannot be up all day and all night and always come with new ideas and with that type of speed. And just there's one moment where you can hold in your mind some things, you see them, but then that moment where it becomes real and someone else sees them. And that someone, incidentally, is the biggest exchange in the world, that for months and months and months grilled us, tested us, negotiated different things. But then at the same time, we were the first and one of the only in Europe to go through the process, to actually match that and be selected out of all these top teams in the world. That was, I think, an absolutely crazy moment in some sense for the community and maybe for everyone in the journey, because it was that special moment where other people saw something in this as well. And it was rare because you did not even know, even a few days until, let's say, the proper listing, you never knew. You actually were never sure. It could always change. It was very much a threading on ice. But that moment, I think, shifted a lot of the game where, let's say, there were many people trying, many people building something cool, but Binance selecting us put us in a different league. I do think this was really special and really interesting. Now, if I'm
can wait actually to jump off today's success and what the next league look like.
100%. We're coming to that. This is an impatient one. So we're going there. If I do have probably just 2-3 questions more, and then some maybe rapid fire, funnier ones. If you were to think about one special moment where you felt a deep connection with the users or the community, and you appreciated the community to a completely new level, what was that moment? What's that special moment where you felt we are not only alone, like some crazy dudes, people building somewhere in Europe, but there's a absolutely extraordinary community out there that's marching and kicking some ass with us. So curious a bit if you have a moment that comes to mind. Maybe Lucian first.
Uh, yeah, I'll start with the validator community. Maybe I think going through the process and spending or having a few reputable friends, I would say, prior to starting Elrond, and I still have quite a few friends, just as a caveat, even more maybe. But back in the days, there were a few prominent ones or with a very strong voice. And I remember actually, they happened to be also validators and, quite big, I would say, maybe one of the biggest at the times in many of the largest ecosystem. And, the way those networks worked and were designed, it was EOS, just to give a reference, 21 validators, right? And then even the most advanced one had 50, 60 machines or support, where maybe one entity had one or even all of them. You never know, just under different names. But then actually going forward, us having this kind of breakthrough in the architecture and coming closer to launching the first version of the network, of course, went through to my friends and invite them to validate and participate in this as actually part of the entire process with many others. But the first ones, especially those prominent ones, were saying, so you're telling me that after all these years, I have participated in 50, 60, 70 validator networks, sets of validator networks, and you need 3,200. Just pausing here, and then actually the discussion went bananas, where those guys almost laughed at me and said, "Dude, what the hell are you trying to say me? Are you even listening to yourself? What you are trying to achieve? And where the hell would you actually find those 3,000 validators or 2,400 or how much we had actually at the beginning? It was just outrageous by any sense." And then coming closer and closer to the release and actually sharing this excitement with the communities, even prior to anything that had to do with Binance, people were actually spotted the spark, felt in love with the technology, and actually literally there were many releases over one day. We had, I'm just mentioning maybe this time again, we had 200 releases, I think in 350, 60 days. So, there were, of course, some weekends, but over on average, almost, people felt on the one hand said, look, guys, please take a break, do something, stop pushing stuff out, give us even on Eastern, Christmas and all that stuff. And then, we found a way to actually leave them alone and push automated updates to just do our thing and stress test our network. But this is actually one of the strongest communities that even today, those people are part of the network. They are monitoring. They have improved. They have actually helped secure the network, grown with the network. And I'm at least is one of my favorite ones that at least that's what I was personally attached to, and I'm still am. And I think we will prepare again very soon something for them. Just dropping a bit of alpha. I think they will. I think everybody had some air, got used to automated processes, but I think it's time to just bring some cool stuff again, some hot stuff for them. Pausing here and leaving the mic.
Sure. Robert, curious if you have a moment specifically about the community that they impressed you.
Yeah,
connected.
I think for me it was X-Day Paris was definitely one of that, but still it was, let's say, a limited event with only our first big event in that side, and then the community was there, and then we could see some of the builders who I didn't even know they were pushing on the chain. So it was amazing to see that. But on top of that, when it was the homecoming, when we had X-Day Bucharest, and on those 3 days of X-Day Bucharest, you would look around at every night there were different community events organized. It was not only us. It was not only about us. And the funny thing was that the how big some of those events got. So I just remember the Cow party. They were like 700 people there. It was complete madness. It was super fine, nice in the parliament as well, and we had all the good discussions and all the builders and all the excitement and people's just doing stuff. And but when you looked a little bit around and you saw in one of the Telegram groups there were 5-10 events in parallel and big parties and everybody was going nuts around that, it's just showed that we are not alone anymore, that there are different kind of actors in it. And then how these kind of actors actually organized among themselves. The validators had their own calls, their own events, then the NFT guys, then the DeFi guys. And everybody was trying to actually co-work, do more stuff, find connections, build more stuff, present themselves. And it was just such a good experience in general. And then you saw how big the world around you it is and how much, let's say, they are believing in the mission of Multiverse X, and that was amazing. And still, like hearing about developers reaching out, seeing on the Twitter or seeing on all channels, the developers pushing for more apps, more code, more tools, more automations, or like people watching our GitHub like mad, like they see a small new feature, the first GitHub push, and they start to ask in 5 minutes after that when. It's incredible to see it happen. But again, this is the wonders of building in the open. This is the wonders of having a permissionless blockchain, which is much bigger than this core team. It's about the community. It's about who builds on this, who validates it, who runs it, who says about this, and then how to grow this out loud.
Adi?
Yeah, so definitely seeing people deploying applications on what we've built and seeing them run live, asking questions, finding themselves solutions, coming with ideas. But if I were to choose some specific events, it would be, I think, the Battle of Nodes, where there were many people interacting, like also builders, also validators pushing, like deploying their own infrastructure, helping to test or stress test some specific features that we had rolling out. So it was amazing seeing that people are doing this, like we were not paying them. They were helping us test the features. And it was amazing to see that they put in a lot of effort. They came with a lot of brain power trying, I remember, for example, Mihai, Dr. Delphi, trying to break the early versions and actually succeeding in some test runs. Yeah,
bricks.
Yeah, the bricks and the stones. Yeah, so it was amazing to see how they all came together. Like, I wouldn't say organically because we launched the events, but seeing them answer to our call and seeing them put in the effort and their time and helping improve the network. So I think it was amazing.
And I think to what each of you shared, the beauty of building a decentralized, open, permissionless network is that once you get a few very excited community members that are in love with what you're doing, and each of them have their own love. Like some of them love the tools, some of them love the let's say validator infra and so on. Some of them just love sitting in telegrams and helping other people. I really remember that there were so many different groups, whether it's the Elrond warriors, whether it's the admins in Telegrams, whether it's the people that were up day and night, whether we were on or we were cooking, just with the technology part. All these people from different parts of the world. We had more than 30 languages with 30 groups that were all at all times translating, asking, going through their own processes. And I believe this is incredible to have a technology taken out and then the people running with it and organizing themselves and spending all that energy is absolutely incredible. And maybe just as with the challenges that we've faced, I feel that the community has shown repeatedly in different instances, especially when it was the hardest, what they are made of. Just as us, we need to show not only through the good times, but actually through the difficult times, what we're made of. The times where we had the hacks, for instance, or we had very difficult challenges, it was incredible how the community elevated the conversation, rose up to the challenge, organized some good sessions, feedback, and so on, even offered a helping hand. So I do think that in some sense, while there's no playbooks for many of the things that have been tried with decentralized blockchain networks, and some of them seem similar to what you do in normal businesses, the idea of building in public, open source technology that has not been built before in real time, so people can both hack you and contribute to that open source technology, and can FUD you day and night if they see something or come with it and so on. It's incredible that you're alive, right? You somehow feel that you wake up and then think, this has worked for 5 years. It has been live. And then there are people who have been with us for 7 years, not only 5 years. So just want to take a moment and offer them a kind of happy birthday, like happy 5th
Happy
anniversary, and congratulate them for being through the journey, for offering all this help, for contributing in so many meaningful ways in the different moments that we needed them, whether it's the validator community, the admin community, the builders, and the community around the builders, or just people from around the world that love the technology and then joined, and they're still with us. So if you survived so long a time and are still alive and kicking, as we get closer to some of the most important milestones since Genesis, I think you've done something right, and you can pat yourself on the back. We're definitely doing that right now, and congratulating you for being part of this journey. Now, there's three other questions that we'll focus on before maybe switching to one funny one. I'll probably try to keep this a bit more focus, and then that is switching a bit us toward the future, toward where we are right now. And for the listeners, we're doing this conversation as we have nailed 2 massive milestones. Andromeda, with one-shot finality, that is live, and I cannot stop saying done 1,000 times. That is done. It's live, and we're very proud of it. But then Barnard is also live, and it's done, and we're finally out with it. And we're getting close to supernova. Now, a supernova is a very, very interesting type of star that maybe in some sense happens very, very rarely, has an absolutely extraordinary impact, and in some sense also dies and gets a rebirth in a completely new way that you never thought would be possible, and that physics would just allow. So we're getting to that moment that will feel maybe crazier than the Genesis moment in terms of capabilities, impact. And this is now right in front of us. So I'm curious for each of you, maybe starting with Robert. Looking ahead, if you were to choose one thing, what's the most exciting thing that you're thinking about and you say this is the coolest thing, maybe for the future of the network, the future of the industry ecosystem as a whole? What would that be?
Oh, for the future, I don't know. Supernova sounds so great, and then together with sharding, which actually we absolutely, let's say, launched it, and it is live and it is working. Without sharding, I wouldn't say it. Things are possible, and like proving the impossible. And people don't really think about how sharding actually solves most of the problems other proof of stake network or even proof of work network has. That when they grow in capacity, they are forced to centralize because they are forced to run bigger machines and bigger machines will be run by bigger businesses who made more money on that. And then things are getting more and more centralized. Sharding and scaling through sharding actually enables this kind of low system requirements, running always, the wonders of running sub-second blocks on Raspberry Pis with full speed, while others are pushing for big racks on the servers, and then the cost of it is completely different beast. But on top of that, putting again the Vibe Studio as well on Supernova, and with all these new AIs coming up and the LLMs, actually everybody can become a builder, and that's like a totally new thing. So it is not only just AI, it's the whole combination of how Multiverse 6 is built up from object levels, from the VM, from the consensus, with the sort of finality it is giving, and with the fact that you can run your services at such a low price. All these combined, it makes like a position where you can say out loud that, okay, just come and build whatever you want. Easy. I am hoping for like, let's see, 1 million builders super fast on the chain, and just remixing
humble
stuff.
Aspirations, I see there, Robert. Humble aspirations.
And also a beautiful
just a million. That's a good number.
A beautiful one thing you like, I see.
Yes, definitely one thing. I was thinking that maybe technical people, that there's something like a kind of technical people orgasm from time to time, where you just give all the good things and you keep adding, keep offering. So really, really cool stuff. Adi, curious if what's the one thing that you're excited about?
So just
ahead?
One. Okay, so
you're asking me like that.
Okay, I will pick. Since you also mentioned Supernova, I'm really excited to see how with Supernova we enable anyone to build applications that feel like instant. So I'm pretty sure that with this upgrade, we are, I think, one of the best options, if not the best option, for any builder to deploy their applications and to provide the best experience to their users. So this is why I'm really excited. And of course, there will be other things that we will work on and we will improve. But for now, I think this deserves its space, and for people to realize how big it is. There has been a lot of work before it, and even put into this specific release as well. And also on top of the previous big 2 releases that we've launched this year, I think it put us in a sort of an unbeatable position, at least from this point of view.
Lucian?
I agree with Adrian and Robert. but I still need to do my contribution just to, I don't want to waste my credit. So I think without restating and taking any of the stuff, but again, pausing and saying again, fully agree with Adrian what it brings and what it means for the network, and then but also building and doubling down. I think if my goal for the ecosystem is particularly that if I think we did a decent job until this year, and we did more than just decent, but the fifth
1%.
year, yeah, the fifth year is gonna change everything. I think it's from, if I look at the technology standpoint, again, it's best in class, peaking of capabilities, and also seeing actually stuff that could be executed and coming closer to a demand for this technology, or building a demand for this kind of technology, which is sharding, that almost no other system can scale or serve at this point. So not only actually being with the properties that actually is superior by almost any other architecture, with one-shot finality, with 600 milliseconds, and then or even going beyond that with the breakthroughs of what the latency and so forth can provide. But then also when it comes to the existing ecosystem, everybody actually gets improved. Everybody looks better, feels better, functions better, and has value added out of the box. Then if it comes to, this is the foundation layer, so to say. This is then for what the next, also in the same time for the existing builders, for the existing community, an upgrade, tremendous upgrade actually compared to everything that we ever envisioned ourselves for the protocol. And then, but also when it comes to distribution, with the tools that we are actually experimenting today, and I'm actually happy that they currently might be undervalued, which is a very good thing. That for the first time, I think we have we have several breakthroughs or fundamental changes upcoming in the next month. I would say very close, even not talking for the half of a year, or the first half of the year of the network, but actually closer than that, with each of them actually bringing fundamental changes to all metrics, all relevant metrics, when it comes to, again, throughput, speed, latency, distribution, growth, builders, and things can go on. This is, I think, one sum package. If there is one thing, I think Multiverse, Multiverse X. Let me call it just Multiverse X, and also the ecosystem. I'll just take one, since I got the mic, I'll just use it all and say also, with the current upgrades, there are multiple also DeFi protocols coming up. Again, CLMMs just announced 2 days ago, one or less than 48 hours, again, a new CLMM on the ecosystem. Congrats. Awesome stuff. New liquid staking upgrades, actually leveraging everything. New lending and borrow protocols, actually finally leveling up that stuff. New algorithmic stablecoins actually being explored. I mean, and just the list goes bananas. I think respect, pausing here and dropping the mic. Happy birthday.
This is a good mic drop. We'll definitely use it. If I were to state the thing that I am also extraordinarily excited about, is that from a product perspective, we are at the frontier. We have something where undoubtedly we lead globally, and that's extraordinary. Now, the fact that we've uncovered some dark distribution, let's say, tools and tactics, and we're starting this game as well. The fact that technology, if I were to simplify it, will feel like magic, will feel psychologically instant. You won't discern whatever upgrade we bring beyond 600 millisecond, you won't feel it. It will just be more, better, and so on. But you're already at the point where it will feel absolutely magical. And so sending a transaction, interacting with an application, building something, will feel unreal. And this brings me a bit to the ViboX discussion. I think the bottleneck that the entire space has, that the entire space had up until this point, is everyone has 1,000 more ideas than what they could bring out into the world. With ViboX, we're doing a kind of 1,000x on the number of ideas that people can bring into the world. That's one. Second, we're essentially just growing the market of the builders, as Robert was mentioning. Now, it's not only to the devs anymore. Now there's no excuse. If you love building something, now is your time. You just take this app, you write some English, you write some just language, normal language, and then you have something. And that, I believe, is more magical and powerful for simple users, simple people, wherever they may be in the world, that they become builders and in some sense unstoppable. You're not at the whims of someone else building it for you. Now you can take the reign and run with it. That's extraordinary. And then last point, specifically with the ViboX part, I think we're doing a kind of 1000x compression in time to market. So if it has taken us years and years and years to build something, and then even applications have taken years to build, now there's no excuse for that. You can have an idea today, drink a cup of coffee, a good tea, and then just deploy it. To use the magic of Supernova and the magic of ViboX together just gives you a glimpse into the future, into how life will be, how you'll interact with applications, how you'll build, deploy, and so on. So the people who have ideas will all of a sudden start being on top, because they'll not be stuck with their ideas in their heads and so on. So everything we've built is not for ourselves. It's for you. It's for the people who have been here with us. And now you can just take this, and whether it's something that has to do with blockchain or doesn't have at all anything to do with blockchain, you can still use ViboX and use these great tools. So this brings us to the point of, if each of you were to look at 5 years in the future, let's say it's 2030, and you're absolutely amazed about one thing, what would that thing be that people would be absolutely surprised about, that you think will happen and they don't have an idea right now? Of course, you can go in many directions, but constraining it, for instance, to one, and not
I'll say to the one, EGLD. It's I wanted to actually point it out for a long time. I didn't want to interrupt, but I cannot hold it anymore. I'll say it again, EGLD.
And then what specifically about EGLD?
So going again and explaining a bit the distribution game. So first, everything that we're building is actually providing more bandwidth, more capacity for the network. Then on the same time, we're for the first time, I think, finally going to a different market that actually is not Web3, not related, not actually going under the water. And we're delivering some tools that actually we're solving a real problem and contributing to the world by actually with the ViboX. But then the beauty of it is, imagine that don't even need to think about first where to plug the blockchain in. If until now you needed actually a bunch of researchers, what if the agents, or we let us actually, you invite the researchers, the agent researchers, to look where actually the blockchain has been used the most, use and leverage the templates that we will provide. And then by the way, this is not 5 years. Sorry, I just got trapped.
Maybe go to 5 years and decode. The templates are there, the agents are there. Like describe that, and then maybe just
abundance, more agents, more value being created, more shards being added, more demand for everything what we do. But actually, I hope and look, if I look maybe what Bitcoin has today, also beyond just the technology and distribution, then I think again, even closer and faster to that, I would expect governmental reserves or governmental integration or deep technical integration to what us defined as a society, and then even beyond the five years, the interplanetary species communication and settlement could be in a sharded manner achieved through the technology that we already built. But I don't want to take everything that I feel less rounds you put me last, and then it was quite hard. Now I hope I did not took everything.
Adi?
Okay, is it what I see or what I hope or both?
Yes. So yeah, paint a picture of what you think will be one of the most surprising or interesting things that you look at related to the network in 5 years.
Yeah, so I will start with something that Robert said with 1 million devs. But I would say 1 million entrepreneurs with 1 million startups, one person startups on chain.
Wow. Wow. We're there. I'm seeing it. And I love it. Robert?
One thing to say, I think over 1 billion agents running on Multiverse Exchange, and maybe the whole internet running on Multiverse Exchange. Why not?
Wow. It's hard for me. You're making my life really hard right now, each of you. So thank you for that. If I were to also state something, I was just thinking out loud that maybe we'll have several millions of people from around the world just being entrepreneurs, though we'll not call them that. The default being you could just build something, go through it, have distribution, and so on. Definitely above 1 billion agents interacting with chains, and maybe still more billions of agents than humans in some interesting way. And then maybe one thing related to eGold, since everything we've said up until this point just showed one, that we've built a great moat, I believe, a great adaptive momentum building product. But the most important change maybe in our mind during the last months and this year is the pure focus on distribution, which I believe is just changing the game completely. And so seeing that in 1 year would be amazing. Seeing it in 5 years, looking at interaction that is invisible, you don't even know that you have a blockchain, they're integrated, but everything is tied to eGold. The demand with the 1 million or the 1 billion is just linked to eGold. There's no other way to use this big, beautiful network than through eGold. And then where will eGold be? I mean, it's hard to say, but whenever you say, if I can grow the demand 100x, what will happen to eGold? Very, very interesting question. If I can grow the demand 1000x, what will happen to eGold? I think there's no big surprise in that. It's very clear that if you can grow that demand and distribution, then we've not seen anything compared to what we can actually do. And it's absolutely fascinating that in some sense, everything we've done up until this point has led to Supernova. Like the last 5 years, the last 7 years have been about perfecting this network, bringing it close to a standpoint where it's leading in the world. But then as we have or reach this point where you forget for 1 second about the network and you really plug into the world, into the market, and give these tools to people, I think we're going to be absolutely amazed by what people can build. Just as we've seen with the community, just as we've seen with different people taking the tools much beyond what we thought. And I'm very, very excited to see that play out. Now, maybe in closing, I'm curious if there were one advice you'd give the community, each of you, one note for the future, or one note from what you've learned, something that would be very useful for them. What would that be? What would that piece of wisdom, if you will, nugget of wisdom, be? Maybe starting with Robert.
Forget about sustainability and do growth.
Amen to that. Amen to that. We should do an entire conversation only on that. Awesome, Robert. Adi?
I would say that maybe the best things are hard earned, and don't come easy.
Wow. Definitely. Eagled agrees. Lucian?
I think we're, so I'll simplify first. Like the way it sounds for the average Joe, you did not come this far to just end up quitting now. So it's hard to explain that everything what we are building is actually compounding every day. And finally, I think the brighter times are coming back. Everybody's moving back online, and we have not fucking stopped shipping ever since. I think you'll be, I'll just say this. It doesn't need to be a genius. It doesn't need to be actually, to make it in life, I would say. It needs to be to have patience, and patient when the impatient actually doesn't. And this is, I think, the one of the hardest thing for people to comprehend. I think there's also a lesson in markets that the way of wealth being transferred from, actually markets have a rule of transferring wealth from the impatient one to the patient one. I'm here. We're here. We're very patient, and we're gonna build and have always built this, and we're not stopping anytime soon. So take some time, enjoy the ride, and give us a hand if you can, but don't bet against.
Absolutely, absolutely true. I can only say amen to all the three brothers here. What I will add is definitely stay humble and stack EGLD. That's the very simple and humble invitation and piece of advice that I give myself and I give everyone. This is definitely not investment advice. This is just life advice that I take myself. And then just note that after 5 years, we're now in front of this massive milestone that we believe strongly is changing not only experience for users and devs, but is changing the game in conjunction with ViboX that is focused on distribution. More than all of this, we've spent the time, gone through the pain of spending a lot of time in the US. And we believe that this technology deserves to be in the US as well, just because the US is the big league. And just because, as we were discussing, for instance, the Binance move and so on, I believe in the future, we'll look at the transition that we've made to the US as a kind of Binance move that was meant for a much, much larger game that we're playing. And so distribution with everything we're doing with the big launch are just in front of us. And now it's a matter of taking it home with diligence, with meticulousness, with relentless, resolute ferocity, whatever you want to call it, patience. We'll just wake up and make another step. We'll not try to, until Supernova, change everything, change the game and so on, but we'll just do this 1% step. And then as we cross the finish line with Supernova, I think it will become clear that this is a completely different game and we're taking it home, whether you like it or not. So you better be on the train. We absolutely love you. Very much appreciate that you've been with us for this last 5 years. And I think the last 5 years have been difficult and crazy and exhilarating in some sense. The next 5, I think, will be at least equally so. So welcome. Happy birthday again to everyone listening, and stay humble and stack some EGLD. The rest,
I'll have
please.
Yes. I have a closing note for the European version. So equal valid still if US will lead, and I think it's already doing that. Europeans, we are inviting the central bank to issue all the CBDCs actually on at least issue them on Multiverse X. They are not good for nothing. They are almost against all the privacy and all the rules actually as what we as a human society have made. However, if any of you listen to this, we are still welcoming and very much welcoming and preparing the best tech house for them. We'll merge them with the rest of stable coins, and we don't make any discrimination in this case. Just ending in a funny note, and happy birthday, Multiverse X ecosystem and EGLD.
100%. Thanks a lot, Adi. Thanks a lot, Robert, Lucian. Really, really great to share this all with the community, with all of you guys, and see you on the other side. Happy, really great 5th birthday.